Hello guys and welcome to today's video on my channel. I recently hit 500 subscribers on this channel and I'm so proud. Thank you all for subscribing to my channel. Today we're going to do something new. We're going to talk about chess and we're going to talk about the bishop's opening. Now we're going actually to go towards the boy variation. I've played the bishop's opening for some time, I think 2 years probably, maybe 3 years, and I've always gone for this d4 push. Now, this is nice stuff. It's the most scoring move in the position. Actually, knight takes e4 is a really bad mistake. Now, my opponent can actually play bishop b5, bishop c5, and I usually play knight f3 here because I want to transpose into the Italian game where I am comfortable. But actually, in today's video, we're going to be looking at 16 possible moves in this position, and we're going to rank them according to how I feel about them. Now, this video is good for people who want to learn openings and people who wish specifically to know about this position, and also higher rated people who wish to find some alternatives in this position. Well, all of you guys, you will learn something new in this video, I promise you, or at least I hope you will. Otherwise, well, I have to retire as a chess coach. Now, we're going to be looking at the worst move of those 16 moves in this position. Now, this doesn't mean that this is the worst move of the position, of course. These 16 moves that I have chosen are moves that are either common moves in this position or have been engine approved. Let's begin with the worst move. Bishop takes f7. This is a big blunder. Now, why is it a blunder? Of course, we're losing a bishop, but it's actually trickier for lower rated opponents here. After queen h5, which is the most natural move for black, we should actually play king f8. This is the only winning move. And after g6, we can take this pawn, and the only drawing move for black is to sacrifice the bishop here. Of course, we're attacking a bishop, we're attacking a rook, and we can't move the rook. And if we block with the knight, we're probably taking this bishop, right? So we go here, king takes, and not queen f7 because we're down a pawn as black. White can just trade the queens and have a better position. We have to play knight f7 now. These moves are not super hard to find as black, but maybe if you're playing a low-rated opponent, they will mess up. So, or maybe if you're playing bullet, they'll mess up. Nobody knows. But now the second worst move is f4. Now, this is actually an interesting move because the most common move in this position is to take this pawn. Now, that's a huge mistake because we can sacrifice the bishop. And if king takes, then queen h5, and well, we'll take this bishop here, and this king has moved, can never castle, and well, white is just better here in this position. But black can play d5. Now, we'll see d5 is a common theme for black in all of these openings actually, but it's really uncommon. It's usually 1% of all games who play d5. But I think d5, even though it has never been played in the Masters database, this d5 move, I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, because I've played against the Rousseau Gambit, I don't know how to pronounce that in English, but you attack that by going d4. Now, that's the colors reversed, so that would be d5. So I think it makes some sense, at least in this position. Now, bishop takes is a move. Knight f6, we're attacking this bishop, we're threatening to win a pawn, and this bishop, if it moves, well, then we'll take then we'll take this pawn, yes. And now queen f3 and castle. I think white's up a pawn right now, but it's not gonna be a pleasant position for white in the long run. Number 14, bishop b3. Now, bishop b3 doesn't make any sense to me. The bishop was good on c4 because it attacked f7. On b3, it still attacks f7, but we just wasted a tempo moving it. And I think a5 is actually a really nice option for black right now, because we want to take some center here, or center. We take some space here, and also this bishop on b3 makes it so that a4 comes with tempo, which is why we can play a5 here. It's not a common move at all, but I still think that makes a lot of sense. We can also just develop with knight c6, and now black is ahead of development, so that's why I think bishop b3 makes not that much sense, but it's still equal according to the engine. That's why it's included. The next move, I think, is queen to e2. Now we develop the queen, yes, it's a piece. We usually develop the minor pieces first, and also it made more sense to go queen h5, queen g4, and queen f3. I think queen e2 makes not a lot of sense for the queen, and also why should we develop the queen right now? It doesn't make too much sense. Number 12, I think h3. Now actually this move can be moved up after looking at the list once again. This is equal. It's not really that interesting, I don't think so. It takes some space here. This allows a knight and a bishop to g4, but that isn't really a concerning idea in the bishop's opening anyway, so really I don't think h3 is that interesting. But maybe someone can get that to work. It's still equal after all. Now let's go for queen f3. Now queen f3 doesn't pose too much problems for black, I don't think. Knight f7 is so natural, it's just screaming to be played. And we sort of get a similar position in some other variation of this bishop opening, but we'll play the knight to e2 instead because of the queen on f3, and you sort of do not gain anything of queen f3 really. The next move on the list is queen to g4. Now another queen move. Who would know that 3 queen moves are some of the lowest on this list? Queen g4, it's not really that interesting. That's the problem. Now there is some danger. Well, an opponent can play knight f7. I guess it's something. And well, this is thrashing mate, so rook g8 cannot be played, and well, black just lost a pawn. I don't know, it's not too difficult to see that. So queen f7, this also attacks the f7 pawn, which is good. We can play probably queen g3 right now, or knight f3. Doesn't really matter. I don't think it's that interesting, that position. And the next move on the list should be a4. Yeah, this is an interesting alternative. I think I can see some high-rated opponents playing this move if they have analyzed it. It takes some space on the queen side, yes, but it also leaves the center kind of well, you have to make sure the center is okay before you play anything on the flanks, and here you can play d5, and you sort of have a good position, I think, as black. That's why actually I think a4 should be lower on this list because of d5 right now. I didn't realize at first that d5 is so strong in this position, although we have to notice that d5 it's only played 1% of all games. It's actually less than 1% of the games, I think. A4, I think that should have been lower on the list. But let's see. It doesn't really matter, the placements, actually, because you just have to see the ideas of the different moves, I think. That is the most important. Now, number 8, Queen h5. And what's the difference between Queen h5 and the other queen moves? Why is this higher on the list? Well, it's because there is some attacking potential after the most common move, Queen f7. We can play Knight f3. I don't know why there is a d5 here. That's not common at all. Let's just remove this. Well, there is some attacking potentials. Let's see, d6, knight c3, and most people just disallow the knight from coming to d5. But if we play g6, we can go here. See, the most common move is to trade this queen, and after this, well, white's just better here. So there are some attacking potentials in this position, but I think the most logical move is Queen e7, and I don't think white has anything here. We can develop a knight, doesn't really matter where, and the point is the knight can go to f7 instead of the queen being on f7, which means that the queen has to move, and now it's more passive than on h5, which I don't know if masters have played this. I think, yeah, masters have only played Queen e7, and it makes a lot more sense than Queen f7, frankly. Now we're getting actually to those interesting moves, I think. But some of them are rather unsound, actually. But c3, the best move is d5 again, and it's also only been played 1% of all games. But let's just look what happens after the most common move, knight f6. Our plan is to play d4. This is sort of like in the Ponziani. I think d5 is a good move in the Ponziani too. But we take here, we have two options. We can either play this, e5, e5, bishop e5, we trade the bishops, knight on f has to take, we take the center, bishop b4 check, knight f3, and c5 is actually a critical break, which I think is findable, and knight f3. White has some advantage, but it will not decide the game. Another option is to go in this position to take this pawn here, and bishop b4, bishop d2, bishop takes d2. Again, this is a common line in this opening. Now we have castles is actually the most common move, but this is not a common move. But I thought this was interesting because if knight takes here, we can sacrifice like this and actually rook to e2 and queen f3. I don't know if there is anything here, but it's actually kind of interesting. Because we disallowed the king from castling, although the king is actually on g8 anyway, so I don't think this is so interesting actually. But d5, and after e takes, we see that white is up a pawn for the moment, but after the pawn is recaptured, then white has an awful isolated pawn, and white doesn't want that, so black is slightly better in the long term, but maybe white can use the development here because white's leading in development right now. So c3, interesting move. Did we look at d5? d5, we can take here. This is the only move. We sort of get into a similar position. Here we have to take with the queen, and we can either play c6 right now, or we can just take this. And again, white has an isolated pawn, and also if knight to e2, we can take this pawn here. Yeah, so not really that impressive c3. Number 6. Let's go back. I think number 6 should be knight to e2. Now this is actually an interesting move, which you should be able to play, even if you're higher rated. Now, this doesn't lead to anything concretely. It isn't. Yeah, well, it's just a good alternative, I think. Our plan is to play d4 later on in the game. Number 5 is actually really interesting, I think. It's b4. Like, if you play the Evans Gambit, now this is the stuff you like. Now, of course, the bishop can go to b7 as in the Evans Gambit, but if we take, it's sort of the Evans Gambit here, c5, d4, they usually take, you can go bishop b7, and that is actually leads to a position where black has some problems here, and I think this is good for white. After c3 we also have knight e5. It's sort of similar. We can also go for this bishop sacrifice here again and take the bishop on a5. We can also play queen b3, and black's up 2 pawns right now, but this is the Evans Gambit. White has more development and is hoping for an attack. And then I think we have, yeah, right now we have knight f3. Why did I put knight f3 here? It's because, like, after knight c6 we can go into the Italian, which is nice. But after d6, then you have to know c3. Gives some problems for black. Now, otherwise, we would basically get into the bishop's opening or the Vienna opening, but for example, can we play this right now? Yeah, we get into the bishop's opening, but since we developed the knight to f3, we do not have f. So next after knight f3 is d3, which goes into the bishop's opening. And on number 2, knight c3, which goes into the bishop's opening. But this is slightly stronger because I did some analysis, and on the percentages here and on Stockfish evaluation, you gain slightly more, slightly better position if you play knight c3 on average. That's why knight c3 is on number 2. And number 1, I think, is the most interesting of them all, d4. But maybe this shouldn't be as high, but it's actually a really nice try. The most common move is to take this pawn, which is a huge mistake, because again there is this bishop sacrifice, and here after we take this bishop we're not even down a pawn, which we were if we played the b4 variation. Now, we don't have to take this pawn. Bishop d4, bishop takes d4, knight goes to f3, knight goes to c6, we take this bishop, and after bishop e3, the most common move is to go back. We could have played b5. b5 is an interesting option. You can play bishop f1 after b5, but after this we have 2 options as white. We could either go queen h5, which is more engine approved, or queen g4, but I think both are equal. After queen h5, we can go the most common move, which is queen f6, which is actually really bad for black, because knight f3 and we're threatening stuff to go to d5 and stuff like that. So, and also b5 because this is a fork here on c7, sorry. And we also have this move. Again, this makes more sense because we want to place the knight here on f7. If we now play this, we have to go back with the go back with the queen. We keep the tension on h4, d6 as a common move, and bishop g5. And there is sort of no attack for white, but the position is equal even though we're down a pawn. So yeah, it's still fine to play. If we don't want to play queen h5, we can go queen g4. We have knight f6, most common move, knight c3. And here, the most common move is actually d5. This attacks the bishop and the queen. But we don't care because we can play queen g3. And now if we take the bishop, then knight d5, this actually wins the game because we're attacking the queen, we're attacking that square here on c7, which gives a fork. If the queen goes back, then this falls and we're attacking this rook. So we cannot take this bishop, which is the most common move. 96% of all games goes for that. You can play knight g to e7, but then we'll take this pawn, and we can take like this, and we regained our pawn, and our pieces are just better. That's why this is so good. And that's all moves after bishop c5. So I hope you learned something new in this video, and that you have found some alternatives that you can incorporate into your own repertoire. Thank you guys for watching this video. We'll see you probably in another, and if you want me to make a similar video, write a comment down below, and if you have some tips for me, you can also give me some tips. If you think I'm talking too fast, or do you think I'm stutter, give me a speech coach or something to work with. Goodbye guys. Thanks for watching.